Benjamin Cleary, writer and director of Swan Song.
Okay. Hey, how you doing, Ben?
Hey, I'm great. Great to meet you, Samuel. Thanks for this. Appreciate it.
Yes, this is an honor. So Swan Song. I watched it and I was in awe of it. And it kind of caught me off guard because I saw like a lot of like talks about Mahershala, and a lot of people were like, oh, okay, this could be really big, but so close to award season, like I was honestly emotionally invested. Like it was humanity driven, like it had all the different pieces that really hit me. And I just want to tell you that I really appreciate your directing and everything that this movie really was, especially this close to award season.
That means so much. Wow, it's just, that's beautiful to hear. And like, wow, yeah, that makes it all worthwhile, to be honest. Like, you know what I mean? Just hearing that and like speaking to people who have seen it, like after me and Mahershala have done some of these screenings and stuff, and people are coming up and like talking about it like that. And it's just, yeah, like gotta say, after all this time making it, that means a lot. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I hope a lot more people talk about it when it releases. So first things first, so the flashbacks in this. So the interesting thing about me for the flashbacks is that they added so much depth and like personality to all the characters. When sometimes, you know, flashbacks can be overcooked sometimes. Sometimes you put flashbacks in, it's like, oh, this is the point of reference to this, a lot of exposition. But for this film specifically, the characters Poppy and Cam, like it added so much like humanity to them. Like you were like, oh man, I love this couple. Oh man, I love their sweet story. Even the tragic moments, like it all felt really organic and real. Even like the small little moments with like, you know, Poppy and her brother Andre, like it all felt like it came from a real, sincere, specific place. And it really truly sold the humanity aspect, especially when you start to go with what's really happened from a mortality standpoint. But I was curious, how important was that when you were starting to write the script? Like the idea of what the flashbacks were really doing? Or is that something that you came to understand when you started like directing and the filming, like, okay, this is very important?
That's amazing that it's landing like that, because that was the intention. And I can get into some of the ways that the actors managed to get to those places, which blew me away every day. But yeah, to go to the part of your question about how long it's been there, that was always the intention. That like once I realized this story, even though it's like set in the near future and stuff, once I realized the idea that I was going to be able to kind of have a meditation on like memory and like the fleeting beauty of like our time here and things like that through the flashbacks, right? And like they say in like film school or whatever, don't do flashbacks, you know, or whatever. But
right, it's dangerous.
Right. But in this movie, because it was such an inherent part of his choice, right, whether he can trust this other him, I felt like we were allowed to go into, or in fact, we had to go into those memories, right? And so because of that layer, I always felt like, oh, that's a real interesting way of getting around the no flashbacks rule or whatever, right? But then it's amazing to hear you say that like, because I always spoke about it like that they're the tip of the iceberg, like that we should see little snippets, but we should feel the roots like way deep from those little snippets, right? You know? And so what we did is like, for a lot of those, the snippets is we did a lot of improv, and like Mahershala and Naomie are like amazing. They were doing like 10-minute takes, knowing that it was just going to be, some of these are going to be like a 3-second snippet, you know, but it gave us the material and the edit to just go through and find those bits of gold. And there was a lot of gold. I'm heartbroken at some stuff I had to leave behind, you know what I mean? But it's beautiful that audiences are connecting with that, and that it feels like there's those roots are there, right? And so that's beautiful to hear that.
Yeah, you really do feel like they are a real family. They are a real couple. Like their son came from a real place, but even other characters as well. And so the other thing I wanted to talk about was the technology. I'm a big tech buff. I love science fiction. And you found a way of these small little technological advancements that felt so natural. That's like, okay, I can see that. This is okay, great. Wireless charging on appliances and furniture. We need that right now. like right. Small little things like that. I was kind of like, the science behind it, even like the small time when he was playing the video game with his son, I was like, I would love to be able to do that with myself. That's so cool, you know. But technology, it progresses so fast, and sometimes it's a hard thing to do. It's like balancing act. Like you don't want to do too much technology to like throw people off, but enough to keep them intrigued enough to understand like, okay, there's a huge science behind like the manipulation of what's actually happening. Like you have like literally somebody's like being transported into somewhere else, as not just cloning. Like this is deeper than that. And so I was curious to like how much research and time was spent like while you were writing this and developing this, from technological advancement even to the science behind what's really happening with the transfer or the swap, so to speak.
Tons. I'm like a meticulous preparation guy. So I was like going real deep into all that. And like, even though we don't show a lot of that, and I never wanted to show like, you know, behind the curtain, right, and start getting into all that, because the movie's about the human story.
Right.
But it's but yeah, the thing I wanted to do is try and create a world, right, where as an audience we look at it and we believe that we're at a time where the technology at the center of this story, that duplication technology, exists, and buy into the world, right? At the same time, the balancing act was trying to create a world that felt like our world now and didn't feel like this completely sci-fi inside of a spaceship type thing, because I felt like that would rob the human story of what it was.
Right.
So that was really the balance. Every day, all the aesthetic decisions, like the thing you made, it's great. You're the first person to pick up on those charging things. It took us so long to actually get somewhere that didn't feel too sci-fi, but still felt advanced, right? Like I'd love to have that thing, right? And that was the thing that we always did. It was like one of the things I'd say to the team as we're developing stuff was like, we should ask ourselves the question, like, is it something we'd love to have? And so then when you come up with that charging dish, a beautiful sort of ceramic dish or whatever that charges, I'm like, I don't know how that tech would necessarily work, but there's things we found to make sure that it could. And that's it. Then you're like, okay, great. That we've got our internal logic and it looks great. And like, it feels like it's connected to here. So anyway, I could go on for like days about the tech, and it's like the funnest part, you know?
I hope that some inventors are going to come to you, just like in the Star Trek days, and be like, you know what? Do you mind if we take this and you know, give you some luxuries behind it? But no, so the last thing I was going to talk about is, of course, the acting and the directing. I mean, Mahershala is the lead in this, and he gives to me one of his most vibrant and vulnerable human performances that he's ever done. And he's a talented artist, and he always plays ball. Like he always compliments the other actors. He always pushes himself beyond any limits that's on paper. But I felt like that for everybody. I felt like Awkwafina, like in the small amount of moments you gave her, it felt like it wasn't over funny. Like it was natural. It was like, this is a real situation that's happening. And specifically him and Naomie, like she was astounding. And it wasn't as though it was like a lot of exposition. It wasn't like she had a lot of screen time. It was just the moments that she was there. It was like you were commanding them, and they were just going all the way for it. And I just, for me, I really appreciated the amount of work that felt like was given to me, because Mahershala was acting off of himself most of the time. And I was kind of like, I really want to know, you know, what was the architecture of how you wrote this and directed it in the same semblance, because there's so much going on here that I personally really truly love. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, if you can speak on any of that.
No, that's awesome. And like, I think that the best thing as a writer director you can have is to write something, right, and do all the prep and everything like that, and then get to set and just watch Mahershala and Naomie just blow it out. Like just what I imagined was just so far surpassed, right? Yeah. I mean, and what you're doing is you're working with incredible talent and hopefully just making something that's already really, really strong that little bit stronger. That's your job, right? And a lot of the time your job is just try and get out of the way of it and just create a place that's full of trust and support and space, right? And so that was one thing I really learned a lot as a first-time director working with them on it. But yeah, I think I start directing when I'm writing. Like I think about how the script is going to be digested by everyone, all the collaborators, right, including the actors. And you hope that the stuff you put in there builds. We were talking a bit earlier about the roots, right, of stuff. You hope that the things you put in paint a bigger picture as to a deeper life here. And then as we develop it, I'll talk about the backstory, because we're going to do like a lot of improv, you know, like with the memories. So there's this backstory that we need to sort of think about. So I'll suggest some backstory stuff and always say to the actors, like, take it or leave it. Hopefully it just sparks something, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a few things we need to agree on, because we need to agree on some of the things that have happened, but most of it you're hoping is just, you know, blossoms in them. And then that was it. It was just like, yeah, watching it progress. I think with the way Mahershala had acted across from himself like that, like it was just, I think it's one of the best things I've seen just in a long time. And you know, I've been a fan of his for a long time. The way he morphs into completely different characters, like his physicality, the little subtle nuances to play this character who's going to look totally identical, but to create that inner world of difference between them, so that like when I'm in the edit room in a second, I know who's who. That's a mastery that's kind of hard to, you know, put a finger on how anyone could achieve that. He's a real master. And it's Naomie and their chemistry together. And then, yeah, Awkwafina, the subtlety she brought to it, like having the way her and Mahershala had to navigate those scenes where 1 minute they're talking about something with a lot of like depth and heaviness, and then bang, it's just like into the comedic tone. That was tough. I think she did an amazing job with that. And then Glenn as well, the way she was able to just like, because it's real hard to play like a neutral, hard to read. That's right. You know, that's tough. I think she did a wonderful job. So yeah, I could talk about this stuff for days as well. I mean, but I'm honored and just incredibly lucky and feel grateful to have gotten to work with the cast that I got to work with. Truly amazing.
Well, I really do truly appreciate it. The expression of love and sacrifice was all there, and I think you did it masterfully, in my personal opinion.
Great questions, you know, and it's, I gotta say, it's just like the best thing going through all this, like all these years and all the stuff, and then like getting feedback like that. Like I really appreciate it. So thanks so much, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see what you do soon, and I really do hope that this gets a lot of recognition, because I personally feel like it deserves it. So
fingers crossed. All right,
yeah.
well, thank you so much. Have a
Nice
good rest of your day. Cheers.